As an Indian girl born in America, my American dream is to make films and to make my mark on the media industry. But I also understand the history and the system that is in place in the media industry. A system that has been and is in favor of white males. It's seen in newsrooms, TV studios, the film industry, and the Oscars. In the 92-year history of the Oscars, only 5 women have been nominated for Best Director. And in the 92-year history of the Oscars, only 1 woman has won an Oscar for Best Director. For an even broader look, according to the Inclusion of Directors Chair study, less than 1% of film directors in 2018 were women of color. I wanted to understand the media industry through the experiences of women. Dr. Amber Hinsley was one of these women.
So I was in a couple of different newsrooms at the LA Times. So I started off in their Valley Edition office. When I was a crime reporter, I was hardly ever in the office because I was out covering crime or I was in court. So one of the interesting things that happened with me was when I was promoted to being an editor, I was 25. And I was the youngest female editor they'd ever had. And it was made very clear to me very quickly that that was about as far as I could expect to go. That I was very fortunate that they had chosen me to be this editor for one of the community sections, but that it was pretty clear that the old white guys in the jobs beyond mine were not going anywhere, and that if I wanted to advance, I was going to have to go someplace else.
What Dr. Hinsley had experienced in the newsroom is something women and people of color face in the media industry quite a bit. They are asked to simply feel grateful for what they have. The truth is, rising in the media industry is an uphill battle that most don't have the privilege to endure, especially minorities. Sure, they could find a place in an entry-level position, but when they want to climb the ladder, there are obstacles that white males don't have to face. Obstacles like lack of support, lack of money, networking, and judgments based on their identity. Judgment based on gender was something that Dr. Hinsley also had to endure.
One of my first performance evaluations as an editor, one of my bosses told me that I was bitchy and intimidating. And my first response was I wanted to tell him to F off. But I didn't, because I realized that would just be playing into the narrative that he had. And so instead, I remember leaning over and putting my hand on the edge of his desk and saying, if I was a man, you would be congratulating me for being assertive. And he was very taken aback by that and didn't like that I said that, but I think it was because he recognized that was true, because he was buddies with all of the other section editors, because they were all guys and they played golf together and did all those kinds of things. And I didn't do those things. I got my job done and I was good at what I did, but I was definitely not part of that circle of editors.
There are stories of hardship like Dr. Hinsley's, but then there are also rare stories of inclusion like Rebecca Jones' story at National Geographic.
I'm Rebecca Jones. I work at National Geographic. I am an associate producer on our digital video team. Yeah, when I reflect back on my experiences specifically in media, it's surprising because it's quite diverse, which is not how the industry actually is. In the National Geographic, we are very diverse in gender. We have a lot of women working here, more than men for sure. And racially, we still have a little bit ways to go. There's definitely diversity, but it can be better, especially because we are a company that talks about culture around the world. So for me, I think my experience is definitely not the norm for women of color, especially Black women, because in the media today, we've been labeled a lot of different ways, and a lot of it's quite cruel. For me, I've felt a lot of acceptance and love from the places that I've worked. And I think because of how I grew up, I was in a lot of white spaces growing up. I was even picked on for sounding white when I was in school, which I never accepted. I was like, you don't sound white. You speak proper English. And if you associate that with whiteness, that is a huge problem. I felt genuine love and appreciation come towards me from people. So that's been really great. But that is not the norm at all. I know many people who have felt discriminated against in this industry.
There isn't one solution to this problem because it goes back for decades, but there are ways that we can help. First, we can share the storytelling space and let diverse storytellers tell their own stories. Second, as the audience members and consumers, we can actively look for this content. Because being passive consumers instead of active consumers also lets these minority creators down.